Hi everybody, it's Laura. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have another layout that I made using a My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. For this layout, I'm using the December 2023 kit, and I'm making a Christmas themed layout. I started off with one of the pattern papers from the December kit, and I'm also using this stencil that I absolutely love. Now I can't remember whether this was from the December kit or if this was from the November kit, because both the November and December kits are generally Christmas themed. But I remember that I absolutely loved this stencil and I used it on quite a few layouts. I'm using some straight modeling paste on this layout. I will often mix my modeling paste with other things, but in this case, I'm just using the modeling paste. I want to have a really clean look to this layout. Normally when I add modeling paste to the backgrounds, I'm not worried about whether or not the shapes are complete shapes, but for this layout, I wanted all of the poinsettia shapes to be complete and I didn't want any excess modeling paste. So when I get a little bit of excess, I use my palette knife and I scrape it away. For the center of my layout, I'm going to be using a cut file, and I'm also going to be using 3 photos. So I have a lot that I have planned for the center of the layout, so I mainly put the modeling paste around the outside of the pattern paper. I use one of the My Creative Scrapbook cut files. These are available to all My Creative Scrapbook kit subscribers, and I cut it out. I backed the word Christmas with some of the pattern papers, and then I stitched around the inside of each of the letters with some metallic silver thread. And then I also used one of the other pattern papers from the kit to cut out the word fun, and I'm layering that on top of the cut file, and I'm going to slightly offset the blue word fun from the white word, and that way there'll be a little bit of a white shadow around the word, and that will make it a little bit more noticeable. So I decided that I wanted to use some strips of paper to make a block at the bottom of the page. I don't end up using this on the final layout, but I think that it's a technique that works out really well on lots of layouts. So I'm going to include some of the footage of me creating this strips of paper. At this point, I had already made a number of layouts using this kit, so I had a lot of little scraps of paper left. So when they were long enough, I cut them into 1/2 inch strips. And then I took a piece of white cardstock and I drew some lines on it. That's to help guide me as to how to put down the strips of paper. This way I don't put anything down crooked, because sometimes if I put one piece down crooked, it'll throw off the whole rest of the strip of paper. So I usually do draw lines to help me. I'm going to put that at the bottom of the page for now. Later on, I decided that it was just too much with all the other things that I had going on. So I remove it from this layout, but I am going to save it for another layout. And there's really nothing wrong with it. I don't think it looks terrible. It's just me and my crazy way of thinking when I'm making layouts. I just thought that a solid would look a little bit better at the bottom. So I cut off part of the piece of pattern paper because I knew that it would just get covered up with the piece that I'm including on the bottom. And then I attached both the larger piece of pattern paper that I added my modeling paste to and the larger strips of paper at the bottom. Then I inked the edges of the entire layout with some Distress Oxide in Stormy Sky. The December kit had papers from 2 different collections. A number of the papers and embellishments were from the Prima Christmas Market collection. And then the background paper that I used for this layout was from a memory place collection called Dear Santa. And I love that memory place paper that's in the background. I think it has such a nice vintage look to it. And I like the way it coordinates so well with the Prima collection. So generally on my layouts, I use 1 or 2 photos. For this layout, I wanted to use 3 photos because they were kind of a series. In keeping with our family tradition, we were having our Christmas Eve at my sister's house, and I think everybody just loves Christmas Eve and really looks forward to it. So even though my girls are a little bit older now, they were still really excited. And so when I asked them to take some pictures, they got a little silly and funny, and I really liked the results. Sometimes those are the best pictures, I think. So I wanted to include all 3 of these pictures because I thought they were cute, and I thought that they all went together. And all of these photos measure 3 by 5 inches. Because they're narrow, I was able to fit all 3 of the pictures across the page. I mounted each one of them on some white cardstock, and then the center photo was popped up on some foam to give it a little bit of dimension. I kept the photo that's in the middle straight, and then I thought that I would put the photos on either side at a slight angle. I thought that it would make the photos look a little bit more interesting and then kind of go along with the fun mood of these pictures. The kit included a pack of ephemera from Prima, and often Prima will have 2 of each image in their ephemera packs, and I was really happy about that because there were 2 banners, and banners are one of my favorite embellishments, so I usually put the banners under the photos, but in this case I could also include one underneath the cut file. I put one in the upper left-hand corner and one in the lower right-hand corner on kind of a diagonal, and then once again there were 2 pine trees, so I added those to the left-hand side of the layout. And I layered one on top of each other there to make a little cluster. Now I'm using my dauber and I'm inking the edges of the banners. I don't usually ink the edges of elements that have a white border on them, but I guess on this layout I decided that I needed a little bit more contrast between the banners and the background. Looking at the layout now, I wonder if it would look nice to add some self-adhesive pearls to the centers of the modeling paste poinsettias that are in the background. I might try that on a layout in the future. And now I'm ready to attach the embellishments down. I attached down the banners and also the pine trees. And then I was planning on including this embellishment of 2 presents on the layout, but in the end I removed this. And the reason is because even though the Prima collection has a lot of pink in it, this embellishment is almost all pink, and I thought that it was just a little bit too much pink for this particular layout. So now I'm doing one of my favorite things, which is to add some photo corners to my photos. I am punching them out of some pattern paper using my EK Success photo corner punch. And I'm putting 4 on the center photo and 3 on each of the others, since the 4th corner is covered by the center photo. These photo corners were punched out of double-sided paper, and then as I was adding them to the photos, I started flipping some of them over because it turned out that I liked the other side better for some of them. And then once again, I'm inking all of the edges with the stormy sky. Here you could see that I flipped over some of the photo corners that had the blue side facing up, and I made the more pinkish side facing up. And then once I had the side that I liked best facing up and I had inked the edges of all of them, I used some ATG adhesive and attached them down. Now this is where I take away that present ephemera piece and I add this little girl holding a tree. And I thought that that would be better to kind of go along with the trees that are on the other side of the photos. And I also like the color scheme of that embellishment better. I don't think that it stands out too much like the presents did. I'm going to add some embellishments underneath the photo on the left. I have 2 sentiments. One says special delivery and the other one says Christmas cheer. And I pop both of these sentiments up on a little bit of foam. And I really like the sentiments because I think they both go with the photos. Special delivery is perfect because it makes me think of presents, and this is the day that we exchange presents with my sister and my brother's families. And the other one says Christmas cheer, and I think my kids look very cheery in these photos. The Prima embellishment pack had a whole bunch of these little tiny gold stars, and they weren't all exactly the same. Some were a little bit larger, some were a little bit smaller, some had some gold lines on them. And so I wanted to incorporate those on the layout. I just love little embellishments like stars, especially for Christmas. So I inked the edges. I used some Distress ink in Vintage Photo, and then I started spreading them all around the page. And I think that these are just the most perfect embellishment for Christmas. I would have loved to have an entire pack of just these stars. I feel like I could use them on so many Christmas and probably some other types of layouts. And then I used some ATG adhesive and I attached them all down. These are the kinds of embellishments I like to attach down right away because I am famous for losing embellishments. It happens on a regular basis. I think most layouts, there's something that gets lost, even if it's only for a short amount of time. And sometimes things just disappear, and every now and then I never find what I'm looking for. So I like to make sure that things are secured down, especially when they're really small. Now I'm adding some jewels to the banners. I put a little jewel in between each section of the banner. And then I added some pink, very tiny self-adhesive pearls to all of the photo corners. I like to buy these self-adhesive pearls from a whole variety of manufacturers because you never know what color you're going to need. Sometimes when I think I have a particular color, I'll take it out and then I find that that particular shade of that color doesn't really go with the collection that I'm using. And they're relatively inexpensive. So whenever I see these pearls from any different source, I usually try to pick up a couple of them so that I have a whole bunch of different shades of different colors available. I mean, I use them all the time, so it's definitely worth it for me. And I'm guessing that most people have an embellishment that they really like to use on their layouts and probably buy more of those just because they know they'll get a lot of use out of them. I'm adding some more jewels to the layout. I added some larger pearls to the holly leaf section of the cut file. And then I added some really tiny little rhinestones to the centers of all of those stars that I have on the page. This is the part where I decided that the background was just looking a little bit too random and it was a little hard to read. So I took a piece of the pattern paper from the kit. This is a blue dot. And I added some modeling paste to it so that it would match with the other modeling paste that's on the background. And of course, my plan is to remove the striped paper and to add this to the bottom of the layout. So I added the modeling paste to this blue piece of paper the same way that I did at the beginning of the layout, scraping away the excess modeling paste when necessary. Okay, so the strip of paper at the bottom of the layout did not come off easily. In the end, I decided to just cut off that part of the layout because I didn't want to ruin it because I know that I'll use it for another layout. So as you could see, I kind of chopped off the bottom part of the layout, and then I decided I was going to cut the whole layout just a little bit smaller and mount it on this piece of blue cardstock. Whenever I'm ripping things off of the page, I tend to turn off the camera because it makes me a little flustered, but you could see what happened here. So after I attached the background down to the piece of cardstock, I was ready to put my new bottom of the page onto the layout. I drew some lines so that I would know where to cut it. And then just like I did to the pattern paper in the background, I inked the edges of the blue paper once again with the stormy sky. And then I attached that strip of paper down to the bottom. So I finally have all of the elements of the layout reassembled, and I'm happy that I added that blue cardstock around the edge. I think that helps to kind of contain everything on the page. And I just happen to have a color blue that I think looks nice with all of the pattern papers and embellishments. Oh, and then I had to go back and put all of the embellishments from the lower half of the page back onto the layout. I was very lucky because none of the embellishments ripped when I removed them from the page earlier. And although they all have adhesive on them already, I'm adding a little bit more just to make sure that they stay put. And it's hard to believe that in just a couple of months, I'll be receiving a Christmas themed kit and I'll be making more Christmas layouts for this year's Christmas collections. And then I realized I had this small piece that I wanted to include on the layout. It's a doily, looks like with a ticket on it, and I thought it would look nice at the top of the photo that's in the center. So I had to cut it back a little bit so it would fit there. And I didn't want to overdo it and add too many embellishments to the page, but I thought that this was kind of a neutral embellishment that would add a little bit more detail. So that little piece of doily ephemera was the very last touch, and now the layout is complete, and here are some close-ups. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you've been watching my videos this summer, I've been putting out a lot of videos of layouts that I've made previously, but I didn't get a chance to finish up the videos. I hope that you enjoyed that. I'm back to work now, so I won't be able to put out as many of those videos, but I'll have plenty of new ones. And if you take a look in the description box, there's the link to the My Creative Scrapbook website where you can order a subscription to one of the beautiful kits that they offer. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.